Welcome in the ring. Let's fight. Much to discuss this evening, and we did say, as we were leaving you last evening, that if we had sufficient reason to come on air before our regular Monday program, that we would come back on air and let you know some things that are happening. This evening, we join you with a special report, the Henry Boys, Murder and Injustice. And we'll be looking at a series of events from the gruesome murder of the Henry Boys, Joel and Isaiah Henry, last September, to where we are currently. And for those of you who are joining us, we will be joined by a lead attorney on this case, Mr. Nigel Hughes. Attorney at law Nigel Hughes will be joining us in our program as we look at some signposts in the investigation of the gruesome murders of Isaiah and Joel Henry. As we usually say as we come on, welcome to those of you who are joining us on Twitter, those of you who are joining us on YouTube, those of you who are joining us on Facebook. And we invite you guys to share the live stream. As soon as we get to our magic number, we are going to begin our program proper. Again, thank you for wherever you're joining us from, whether it's at home here in Guyana, in the diaspora, whether that's in the Caribbean region or further afield internationally. We want to welcome each and every one of you. And as we always encourage you guys to do, share the live stream, retweet the broadcast, subscribe if you're joining us on YouTube. And thanks for all of you who are joining us on this Saturday evening for this very, very special report of In the Ring, whether it's Donna David or Irwin, Dawn Cooker, Marlon King, or whether it's Pamela Sasharine. A very good night to all of you, Lily McGarrell and Michelle Butts, all of you guys who are joining us close to us home here in Guyana and internationally around the world. We thank you for joining us this evening. And as we hit our magic number, folks, we are going to delve into some of the issues, giving you context where this investigation started, what led to this investigation. And then Mr. Nigel Hughes, attorney at law, Nigel Hughes, the lead attorney on this case, will bring us up to date as to where we are currently. Just moments ago, they would have issued a press statement, Mr. Nigel Hughes and Hughes Fields and Stobie, his law firm there, would have issued a press statement, and we're going to walk through that as well in our program and to get a sense from him as to where the investigation is currently. We have some developments happening over this weekend, and that is particularly why, the chief reason why we've chosen to come back on air and to bring you up to date as to all that is happening where this program is concerned. Good to see you, Gloria Chester, Oren Baker, Oral Morrison, Onika Light, and all of you other folks. Anne McCarthy, good to see you as well. It's really a privilege of ours to have all of you guys join us this evening online, whether it's on YouTube, it's on Facebook, or it is on Twitter, guys. And as soon as we get to that magic number, as we promised you, we are going to commence our program proper. So bear with us, folks. Tag a friend. As many persons as want to join us can join us. We invite you guys to join, to invite somebody, whether you share the link for the program on YouTube to a friend, or whether you share it to your profiles or your pages. We are happy to have each and every one of you. Dolet Asana, Rita Clark, is it Rollin Stevens and Willetta Bess, Heaven Faith, and Eula Rubens, Jamal Aziz. A very good evening to each and every one of you. And we're ensuring that we have everything working to our advantage at the back on this side. And we are very, very eager to begin our program as soon as we hit, as per usual, our magic number. Thanks for joining us, guys, wherever you are joining us from this evening. We are so privileged. Jacqueline Pastano and George Parker and Neville Daniels. Good to have all of you guys. Elizabeth Norine, good to have you as well. And Debbie Prince, Hazelyn King, Good to have you. Esther D. Jong, good to have you as well. Good to have each and every one of you. Lily McGarrell, good to have all of you guys here in the ring with us this evening. We are closely approaching that magic number. I see John Jones, who's joining us on YouTube from the USA. Good to see you, John. And Kieran, good to see all of you. Or Karen, good to see all of you. And Joy Phillips, good to see you as well. Onessa Ward Dean, good to have so many of you joining us at home here in Guyana and in the diaspora as well. Guys, as per normal, we encourage you guys to share the live stream. We got to fight tonight, folks. Lots of silly things are happening in the Guyana Police Force. I'm looking over to my notes and ensuring that it's exactly where I need it this evening. Let me bring it a little closer. Again, good to have you guys. Richard Ross joining us from Brooklyn, New York. And is it Carol Prince? Good to have you as well. Lyndon Cadogan. And I see there Andrea Boston and Stephan Jarvis. Lots of folks joining us on this Saturday evening as we look to see some of the developments. So guys, just to give you a sense of how we are going to proceed with the program, we're going to talk a little bit about the lives of Isaiah and Joel Henry. We're going to give a brief portrait of their lives, and we're going to talk about where we started from, what led us here, and where we are currently. And Mr. Nigel Hughes is going to join us again, as I said, a little later on in the program. So again, folks, welcome, whether you're joining us on Twitter, you're joining us on Facebook, you're joining us on YouTube. Good to have each and every one with us. Do remember to share our live stream. Richard Trust joining us from Brooklyn, New York, and is it Nicola Jackson? Is it Anisax Isaacs? Good to have all of you guys there, folks. I want to give you a brief portrait of Joel Adams Henry, and Joel was born in 2001, and as you know, would have lost his life so tragically along with his cousin Isaiah Henry in September of 2020. Joel Adams Henry, ladies and gentlemen, he was 18 years old, and as I said, he was born December 21st, 2001 in Firish, West Coast, Demerara. He attended number 8 secondary school after attending Gibraltar Cortland Primary School. He loved music and liked to disc jockey. He liked being a DJ. He apprenticed at a mechanic shop and worked for a short time, even at a lemonade factory. He was industrious. And at the time of his untimely death, Jamal worked at the Blairmont estate packing sugar. He aspired to go into the Guyana Defense Force after the COVID-19 pandemic would have mitigated. And Joel's mother, Gail Johnson, says Joel was a loving child and, of course, will be deeply missed. He would wake at 4:30 a.m. and helped her clean. He went to work, came home, and would cook for his mother and siblings. Joel's father, Colin Mitchell Henry, died in 2009, and Miss Johnson sold plantain chips at the Berbice Bridge to build a home for her children, Joel and his 7 other siblings, Ruth, Anicia, Kobana, Colwyn, Mark, Piccola, and Henscosi. Joel's sister-in-law, for instance, Diana Ross, named after the famous and iconic singer, said that Joel was quiet and he was very jovial. She went on to say that my sisters loved Joel and called him Uncle Joe. He was nice to his niece and always put her on his status on social media. Joel was on his way home from work that Saturday morning when his cousin Isaiah Henry asked him to accompany him into the back dam to pick coconuts. Joel had gone to the back dam once before when he was younger, but was severely reprimanded by relatives, and so he desisted from going into back dam ever again. Both Joel and Isaiah's body, as we said, were found brutally murdered at the Cotton Tree back dam, and as you know, investigations are ongoing. As regards Isaiah Henry was born in 2002, viewers, and Isaiah saw the sunlight for the very first time on November 5th, 2002. His parents were overjoyed. He would later attend the Cotton Tree Primary School at number 8 Secondary School, where he made friends very, very easily. The family says that his father, Gladstone Henry, uh, um, as any parent would, is still shrouded in grief, and said that Isaiah loved to eat. He would spend his money on food. He had good size, his father says, but threw off as he grew up. That's how his father remembers him fondly. He wanted to be a mechanic and liked to be independent. He was trying to get work at the estate, but was held back because of his age. He even had a brief stint working with a rice farmer, drying rice. Both of these young men were very, very industrious. Isaiah's days were spent like that of an average teenager in his community, whether it was frolicking with friends, playing sports, or riding his bicycle from Bath Settlement to Blairmont Estate. He loved to ride, his parents says. According to Isaiah's dad, he was tall and very nice, an easy boy to get along with. He was raised in a Christian home, went to Sunday school, and he was also in the church's youth group at number 4 Assembly of God Church. And finally, since Isaiah's gruesome death in the Cotton Tree Back Dam, where he and his cousin Joel, as you know, went to pick coconut and where he met his untimely demise, his mother, Patricia Henry, can hardly sleep. She deeply mourns the untimely passing of Isaiah Henry, as does his siblings, Gladstone Henry Jr., Isaac Henry, Tiffany Henry, and Aloma Henry Backus. And folks, that is a brief portrait of both Isaiah and Joel Henry. And folks, as we would have said to you, both of these young men met their untimely demise last September. Both of them, last September. They were cousins. And lived close to each other. Isaiah was 16 and Joel was 18. Their bodies were found on the 6th of September, 2020. They had gone missing on the 5th. And as family members searched the back dam for them, they were discovered there, gruesomely murdered at the Cotton Tree Back Dam. Folks, as you know by now, there was a series of protest activity in Region 5, West Coast, Berbice. A series of activities in protest of these gruesome deaths. Yep. And also protests concerning the police handling of this matter. Several roads were blocked, bridges were blocked, and then some semblance of normalcy would have returned to Region 5. So again, there were several protest activities, just bringing you to where we are currently. There was also a promise by Irfan Ali. Yes, there was a promise that was made by Irfan Ali on visiting the family of Isaiah Henry. What was that promise? The family was assured that no stone would go unturned. That was the assurance given to family of Joel and Isaiah Henry, that no stone would go unturned to ensure that those responsible for the heinous acts are brought to justice and made to answer for their crimes. And I want to quote Irfan Ali now, because he said, "I will work day and night. I will work day and night to get to the bottom of what happened to these teens. I will work day and night to get to the bottom of what happened to these teens." That was the promise made by a president that has thus far gone unanswered, gone unfulfilled, like so many other promises. I will work day and night to get to the bottom of what happened to those teens. Folks, early January of this year, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Shalimar Ali Haq, recommended that Vinod Gopal, Anil Sanchara, and Akash Singh be charged for the capital offense of murder. They have since been charged, and nothing has happened since then. Nothing has happened since then. And I want to remind you again of that promise that was made. I will work day and night to get to the bottom of what has happened to those teens. The parents, family, friends, and loved ones of Joel and Isaiah Henry still cry out for justice. And so, as I've said, one Vinod Gopal, Anil Sanchara, and Akash Singh were charged for the gruesome murders. And the police told the public that they had confession statements from these gentlemen, that they were confession statements from these three gentlemen who were charged. And yet, all of the young men, all of the men charged have been protesting their innocence. All of the men charged have been protesting their innocence. Take a listen.
One day, you good?
Yeah.
We do.
We do nothing, man. The man want me to give him a statement. Found someone in the prison. Let me say, tell me something in the lockup at the arm. Found something in the back. That man, you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. Want me to kill the man?
No, me know nothing but I'm in here. Jacob for the advance to find out about me. Me know nothing but that. The advance means nothing.
What's your name?
What's the name, man? What's the name? The man is only what Mr. Mark.
Just stay for the camera.
One day, you good?
Yeah.
So guys, we've given you a sense of some of the things that led us to this point, some of the issues that have led us to this point. The police said that they had confessions from three men, Vinod Gopal, Anil Sanchara, and Akash Singh, and yet all three men are protesting their innocence. In addition to that, the family members also would have spoken to the public, protesting the innocence of their relatives. And I want to show you some of that as well. So not only are the accused protesting their innocence, even though the police said that they have given confession statement, the family members have come forward as well. Take a listen.
Sanchara? You think Anil Sanchara killed those boys at Cotton Tree back then?
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Why you don't think so?
Me don't know the body. Now there's this came back home, me make it one this Christmas upon me take this by me and all this right.
So how are you related to Anil Sanchara?
I went out walking and the wife find me. He say like me. No.
Oh, so you're Anil's girlfriend?
Yeah.
So at the time of the murders, he was with you?
No.
Okay. So you don't think that your boyfriend killed those men?
Me don't know.
Is he capable of murder?
Huh?
Is he capable of murder?
Me not be this Christmas upon me take this right.
Oh.
There's two of them I can make this by me right. I'm come to Venezuela. I'm no come for Guyana. I mean, I know this right.
So you familiar with the other boys that your husband with?
The other boys that were charged, you know them? The other two boys?
You know the other two boys that get charged with him?
On newspaper.
Yeah.
But you know them before? You're sure you never know them? You never see them before? No way?
No, porque mira cómo mira con Guyana, me come to Venezuela, I walk and this by reach me, say like me, I may take this by I mean know this by.
So,
Only Christmas to come, me take this by me.
Only Christmas.
Okay.
Okay.
And what's your name?
Meaning, in this film, like, meaning I was finding.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello.
We are coming to you live from the Blairmont Magistrates Court, where they expected the matter.
Yep. So that is some
We'd
of the
expected
family members protesting the innocence of their loved ones who the police said they had confessions from, but the accused themselves say they don't know anything about the murders of Joel and Isaiah Henry. The matter went as far. The matter went as far as there was a specialist that was brought from Argentina, the Argentine forensic anthropologist, Dr. Luis Fondebreda. I hope I have my pronunciation correct. Fondebreda, who came, and the Ghana police force and the Ghana government give them hell to get any information. Give them hell and put up roadblocks at every step of the way to prevent them from getting any meaningful information on this matter. And while the family of Joel and Isaiah Henry were attending one of the briefings from the forensic anthropologists and were returning home, they were stopped. And for what the police said was a failure to produce a driver's license, ended up into a huge commotion. Just giving you some signposts of activities along the way, events along the way that has brought us to where we are this evening on this issue. And I want to share some of that with you. Here's what transpired when the family was stopped for a suspended license. Failure to produce a driver's license. Failure to produce a driver's license. And then after Isaiah and Joel Henry were laid to rest, this was some of the scenes when government ministers would have showed up at the funeral service of those young men. This is what would have transpired. Folks, clearly how the investigation has gone and has been going. The members of the administration has been deemed persona non grata, or were deemed persona non grata at the homegoing ceremony for both Isaiah and Joel Henry. I want to welcome this evening my guest, the lead attorney on this case, Mr. Nigel Hughes. Mr. Nigel Hughes. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Hughes, a very good evening. Welcome. I'm getting some challenges with your audio. No, I don't have any sound as yet. No sound as yet. Folks, bear with us and we're going to get it right.
Is this any better?
It is much better. Thank you very much.
Good. My apologies. Good evening, Sherrod. It's always a privilege to be in your program.
Thanks for joining us this evening, Mr. Hughes, on such very short notice. We know that within the last 72 hours that there were arrests made and charges laid against 4 persons, including Gladstone Henry, for the murder of
Harish Singh.
The other young men charged were Joel Gittins, Charles Scott, and Mr. Philip Anderson, along, as we said, Mr. Gladstone Henry, for the murder of Harish Singh. Several things has transpired since then. Walk us from what led to that, to your knowledge, the arrest of Mr. Gladstone Henry, among the other person, for the murder of Mr. Harish Singh.
Sure. What I attempt to do is put it in chronological order. Sometime during the course of last week, the police arrested a gentleman called Philip Anderson. He didn't have a lawyer. He got arrested. And after he was arrested, sometime on Thursday, I believe, they issued a wanted bulletin. This would have been Thursday evening. Issued a wanted bulletin for Gladstone Henry Jr., which is the son of Gladstone Henry Sr. and Patricia Henry, and he's also the brother of Isaiah Henry. The wanted bulletin was for him for the murder of Harish Singh. I was not in Georgetown on Friday and half of Saturday. I was in Cameron. So his parents opted to wait until I returned. And at about 1:30 on Saturday afternoon, I took him. I was accompanied by Attorney at Law Kiswanda Jeffa and his parents, Gladstone and Patricia. We went to CID headquarters, where as soon as he went, he was arrested. We were told that the officers who were investigating the murder of Harish Singh were out of town at the West Coast Base, and that they will contact us when they're ready to question him. I must have left there somewhere around 2:33 in the afternoon. I left his parents there. Around 6:15 in the afternoon, I received a call that the investigating officers had returned and they were ready to interview Gladstone Henry, the suspect. We went to Ivleri, and in our presence, that's the attorney's presence, 2 police officers, Mr. Anais and Mr. De Silva, interviewed him. At the end of that, he maintained his silence as advised by counsel. At the end of that interview, I inquired, first of all, I told Mr. De Silva and Mr. Anais that there are several eyewitnesses available. Would you like us to bring them to the police station so you can take statements from them? Or would you like us to take the statements and bring them in? And I indicated that these alibi witnesses could confirm that Gladstone Henry was at his parents' home on the 9th of September 2020 when Harish Singh was murdered. The reason why the 9th of September is such a significant date is because that's the date that the post-mortem took place into the bodies of Isaiah and Joel. So naturally, the family would remember where they were, and they were all at number 3 of the parents' home, and they were watching the streaming of the postmortem. So at the end of that interview on Saturday, we left. We asked him, Mr. De Silva said to me specifically that he would have to get instructions from his superior before he could indicate to me whether they will take the statements or whether I should bring them in. We left. On Sunday afternoon, late afternoon, I received a message that the police again wanted to interview Mr. Gladstone Henry. Myself and Attorney Jefford attended the station, and then there was a video recorded interview with Gladstone Henry. In the course of that interview, they provided a written statement from Philip Anderson that said that Gladstone Henry and 3 other people were involved in the murder of Harris Singh on that morning. That was a video recorded interview. At the end of that interview, again, I said, this cannot be so because we have alibi witnesses. Would you like us to bring them in, or would you like us to take the statements and bring them into you? Mr. De Silva, again, indicated that he had not yet got instructions from his superior, and he would get back in contact with me. As I was leaving the police station, I saw Assistant Superintendent or Superintendent Caesar in the yard, and I said, Mr. Caesar, we have alibi witnesses. Do you want us to bring them in, or do you want us to take the statement? And he said, take the statements and bring them in. I immediately relayed this to the parents of Gladstone, and the following day, 10 alibi witnesses, all of them were women, and I commend the women for always willing to come forward, came to our office, and several attorneys interviewed them, took statements from them. They signed those statements. Each and every one of those witnesses confirmed that Gladstone Henry, on the morning of the 9th of September 2020, was at the family home at the time when Harris Singh was murdered. They actually gave information of how they got the information that Harris Singh had died, a man by the name of Douglas came, and each and every one of them said that Mr. Sarabo and an Indian officer came to those premises while Gladstone Henry was there, spoke to Patricia Henry, and left. Patricia Henry, in her statement, described what Sarabo had on. She said he had on a light blue shirt, black trousers, and black shoes. Not a uniform. This is in plain clothes. I personally took those 10 statements to the police headquarters and submitted them. That afternoon, one of our attorneys, Narissa Leander, emailed the Director of Public Prosecutions and told her that we had 10 statements exonerating Gladstone Henry of the murder of Harris Singh. Later in the evening, I personally sent an email to the Director of Public Prosecutions referring to the same statements and expressing my concern that a miscarriage of justice might have been occasioned. The following morning, we are all waiting around to find out what was going to happen with Gladstone and all the other boys. No information. We kept calling the police. They wouldn't respond to the phones. And somewhere around 2:30, we got information that the police had traveled all the way to West Coast Babies behind the backs of these 4 men and had filed charges for murder and had brought them up before Magistrate Peter Hugh. We got the link. We attended the court, and at that hearing, we indicated to the court that we had alibi witnesses. We wanted him to make a note, and he said he made a note. So after the charges, of course, families are distraught. Tuesday, nobody attempted to see any of these eyewitnesses. Wednesday, nobody attempted to see any of these eyewitnesses. Thursday morning at 10 o'clock, we had a press conference in which all 10 eyewitnesses attended. I hosted that press conference, and those eyewitnesses recounted what had happened on the day individually, and they were questioned by various members of the press. Fast forward to Thursday afternoon after the press release. Up to that time, not a single police officer had attempted to speak to any of these eyewitnesses. And the police then issued a press release in which they said the following things. One, that Gladstone Henry did not video record the postmortem. 2, there was no video recording of the postmortem other than by the police. 3, that Sarabo was at the postmortem that morning, and they attached to their press release a photograph of Mr. Sarabo. 4, without even interviewing any of these witnesses, they said that these witnesses had perverted the course of justice, or had attempted to pervert the course of justice by submitting statements saying that Gladstone Henry was where he was at the time. They also suggested I was somehow responsible for orchestrating this entire thing. This is on Thursday evening, they issued this statement. When I saw the statement, I was in shock that they would actually say this. So I immediately contacted the 10 witnesses. Actually, I was only able to contact 6 because I think 3 had left to go up the river or gone somewhere. I was unable to contact them. And I said, you have to come down on Friday morning so that we can go to the police, so you can present yourselves and say that these are your statements and they can question you. We arrived at the police station at about 11. And in an unprecedented scene, we were met between 10 to 15 police officers, all with cameras, video recording these 6 women as they came in with Mr. Henry. I actually thought when I saw that large number of people, I thought it was the press. I said, oh, wow, the press were aware that we were coming in. And it turned out to be between 10 to 15 police officers, CID officers.
Wow.
And they videotaped these people. As soon as the women got to the top of the step in CID, they were asked to go in. These officers continued to video record them. And let me just say this so I don't have to repeat it. Those 10 to 15 officers, for the entire next 6.5 hours, were just video recording these women, video recording their lawyers, video recording their conversations between the lawyers and the clients. And this was clearly an attempt to intimidate them. Barbados women, they weren't intimidated. So one by one, they were interviewed in a video recorded interview in which they were told that they were suspects for the offense of attempting to pervert the course of justice. And they were told that the attempt to pervert the course of justice was the submission of the statements. Each and every one of those women, without fail, confirmed not only what they had said in their statements, but confirmed that on the 9th they were there. Some of them were looking at the live recording of the postmortem, and that during the course of the morning, both Mr. Sarabo and an Indian police officer had come and spoken to Patricia Henry. Every single one of them. They were all very strong. As a matter of fact, one of the police officers commented on how forthright and vigorous they were in what they had said. When they had finished the statements, other people, there were two separate rooms, and each room had 3 police officers. A scribe, the officer asking the question, and the one who was video recording. This is in addition to the 10 to 15 officers who were outside video recording what was going on. Every time the ladies left to go to the restroom, they'd be videotaped as they went to the restroom. When they left to be fingerprinted, they videotaped. One of the ladies has a 7-month-old child. She had to go breastfeed her child, come back. Whenever they spoke to their lawyers, video recorded. So these officers did nothing that afternoon except stay in that CID office and video record. If you think about it, this is between 18 to 21 police officers, including the interviewing officers, who did absolutely nothing in the headquarters of CID, major crimes. This was their priority. 6 women who gave alibi statements, who had become criminals because they had given these statements. At about 6:30, I was informed by, I think, Mr. Caesar or probably Mr. Stephen, I can't remember which one, that these women were going to be admitted to bail in the sum of 100,000. I indicated to him at that time that all of them came from West Coast Bobbies. None of them worked in Guyana, in Georgetown, sorry. None of the, actually only 5 of the 6 were 5 of the 6 were unemployed. Only 1 was employed. 1 was a grandmother. 2 are grandmothers, Patricia Henry and her sister. and that it is virtually impossible at 6:30 in the night for them to find $600,000 on a Friday night in Georgetown, where all their financial resources are in West Coast Bobis. They live in West Coast Bobis. Their relatives are in West Coast Bobis.
Yeah.
Where are they going to find $600,000? And they said they're very sorry. They have to find the $600,000. One of the ladies, the one who was working, her relative or friend of hers came and bailed her, and the remaining 5 women were taken to the East La Penitence lockup, where they were placed in the cell. Mr. Henry then drove all the way back to West Coast Bobis, raised the funds, raised some of the funds. Some very, very kind persons, probably don't want to be named. We started a drive to raise the bail for the other ladies who were in custody. And we managed by about 11:30 that night to raise the $500,000 to bail the remaining women who were in police custody, who were in the lockup at East La Penitence Police Station. Those women did not get home probably until, I don't know, like 1:30 that evening in West Coast Police. During the course of today, of course, we were reviewing some of the statements, reviewing what had happened. And very late this evening, we prepared a statement which updated the public on what was happening. And we specifically addressed the police issue. So in that statement and attached to the statement, we provided the video recording of the postmortem, not the police video recording, the video recording of the postmortem taken by Patrice Henry on the instructions of Mr. Gladstone Henry, which is exactly what they were watching. I went to Mr. Patrice Henry to collect a copy of the video recording, and he confirmed that he had transmitted this on the day when he was video recording it during the course of the postmortem. Also, what is interesting is that in the statement of Patricia Henry, she gave 2, one on the 28th and one on the 1st of July, both before the press conference and before the police press release. And in that statement, she described, as I said before, the clothing that Mr. Sarabo had on. And when the police released the statement, Mr. Sarabo had on a blue shirt, black pants, and black trousers.
The exact clothing.
The exact clothing, and it's not police uniform. This is the colors he was wearing.
Yeah.
So unless Miss Patricia Henry was possessed of immaculate foresight, or Mr. Sarabo only wears clothing that he had on that day, there's no way she would have known that the police photograph would have confirmed that. Last thing before I know it's quite long. The police in their press release said they had gone to the home of 2 people, Claudette Kirschus and Bibi, and I wouldn't attempt to pronounce her surname, it's quite long, and they couldn't find them. When I spoke to them, they called their relatives, and their relatives said at absolutely no time did any police officer go to their homes to ask for them. So that is where we are. All those women have to return to the Criminal Investigation Department headquarters on Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock.
Mr. Hughes, it would appear that the police had no interest in these women, save and except after they would have been part of your press conference hosted by your law firm. In terms of being alibi.
Here's what's the most disturbing aspect of this. And I'll use the same example that I used earlier today. Sure, if the 2 of us are sitting down in a shop in Buxton having a drink between 3 and 5 o'clock in the afternoon on the 12th of May, and we sit there, you take a beer, I take a glass of wine, we eat some cutters, and at 5 o'clock you leave. You are then arrested and charged for murder that occurred during that exact time. 3 to 5. You're taken to court, and I read in the paper that Sherrod Duncan is charged with murder that occurred between 3 and 5 on the 12th of May. And I said, that's impossible, because he was with me. I was drinking with him. They had a bartender, and there were other persons in the bar. And I go to the police station and I say, "Dear officer, this can't be correct. I'd like to give a statement because Mr. Duncan and I were in the shop in Boston on the 12th. He was drinking beer, I was drinking wine. We were eating cutters, and there was a bartender and several people in the shop. I identify the people. And because I give that statement, I become a suspect for perverting the course of justice, for saying that you were with me, which I know as a matter of fact. I am arrested. I am questioned without any investigation being done. And in this case, the police didn't, they had the statement since the 28th. One would have thought the bare minimum of basic investigating procedures would oblige them to at least call these people, go to them, and say, look, we received a statement from you saying that you were at X, Y, and Z, and ask them questions that could either challenge whether they were there, and at least find out. Nothing. The police make them a criminal in a press release. So when they arrested them, I asked one of the officers, how are these women supposed to know that they were even wanted? They say, because we issued a press release in which we said that they were perverting the course of justice, they should know that they're wanted. This is unbelievable.
Yeah. Mr. Hughes, Hughes Fields and Sobeys, your law firm, as you said, put out a very, very strong statement this evening. I want to quote a part of that statement and get your response whether you want to expand on it. The statement reads that the failure of the Guyana Police Force to investigate the contents of the 10 alibi statements provided to them before the institution of the charge of murder against Gladstone Henry is the hallmark of an inadequate, unsatisfactory investigation, lacking in diligence or the basic minimum standards of contemporary investigative operations. The statement goes on to say the subsequent failure or even to even contact any of the alibi witness prior to the press conference attended by the alibi witnesses disclosed the most unfortunate disposition of the Guyana Police Force and the conduct, in the conduct of the investigation into the murder of Harry Singh. And then it goes on as well to include the issuance of a press release by the Guyana Police Force in which they classified the alibi witnesses as criminals who had attempted to pervert the course of justice before they even spoke with any of them or investigated their alibi statements, speak volumes of the interest of the Guyana Police Force in conducting a fair investigation into the murder of Harry Singh. And I want to juxtapose that to what Irfan Ali said early on as these investigations started, or as there was pressure being brought to bear on the administration for a robust investigation. He said, I will work day and night to get to the bottom of what happened to these thieves. It seems as though they have now gone in a total different direction.
Sherrod, you will remember from the time of these very brutal murders, we said that we wanted the most diligent forensic examination conducted into the investigation of the deaths of these two young men. We said that from the start. We said we wanted a diligent investigation into the murder of Harry Singh. We went on to say from the start, long before anybody was arrested, charged, we said, look, we don't want confessions because confessions are not reliable. We expressed our fear and skepticism that the police are going to produce somebody who is going to confess. We said, let us get the best forensic help available globally to help us solve this crime. We took it upon ourselves, particularly the Guyana Human Rights Association. They identified the best forensic team globally. They said it would cost X. The Human Rights Association and its friends raised funds to bring the leader of that team, a forensic anthropologist by the name of Dr. Funderbryer, who you referred to before. He came to Guyana. You would have thought, given his skills and his immense abilities, particularly in solving other crimes globally, that the police and the government, following the commitment by the Honorable President, would have been more than willing to accept the assistance. They didn't have to pay for this. We had raised funds to bring the entire team here. And on his only meeting with the Minister of Home Affairs, at which the crime chief was there and Mr. Mike McCormack from the Guyana Human Rights Association was present, it was clear in the words of both Mr. McCormack and Dr. Funderby that the government had no interest whatsoever in taking the skills or taking advantage or deploying the skills of Dr. Funderby and his team. We read in the press afterwards that, that some FBI person was going to be here. We heard that the Caribbean security team was coming and did come. The only statement I'm aware of issued by them, they said that the Guyana Police Force is very capable and competent to solve this crime. Some time passed. Dr. Funderby went to the scene of the murders, where the scene where the bodies were found, not the scene of the murders necessarily. And he asked or sought access to the forensic reports and other evidence that had been gathered up to that time, and he was refused any access whatsoever. He left, and then after that, we heard that 3 young men had been picked up and allegedly confessed to the murder of Joel and Isaiah. And before they even got to the court, while they were on the court steps, they were protesting vehemently that they had been forced to sign these statements and that they had absolutely nothing to do with the murder. We expressed, we meaning the family and myself, expressed grave reservations about whether or not the Guyana Police Force had actually identified the persons who were culpable for the murders of for the murders of Joel and Isaiah Henry. These men went to court. The matter is sub judice. It's taking place at the Blairmont Magistrates Court. All this time passing, nobody, including Mr. Anderson, gives any statement to the police about being involved in the murder of Harris Singh. Mrs. Henry and Gail Johnson go on a Rickford Burke program 2 weeks or a week and a half before this recent fiasco. And Mrs. Henry is very strong and scathing in her comments about her lack of confidence in the police, the actions of the police. She says she has no confidence in what has happened. She doesn't believe that the people who are charged with the murder of her son are actually responsible. And she expressed in no uncertain terms her complete lack of confidence in the Guyana Police Force. She says that they were rude, they didn't contact her, etc., etc. The next night, Rickford Burke, I think, interviewed Mr. Nandalal. Had a program, he didn't interview Mr. Nandalal. He had a program in which he was quite scathing on Mr. Nandalal. And then the police kicked into action, arrested Philip Anderson. And we don't know what basis they would have arrested him. Because for the last year and a half, there's been since the time of the murder, there's been no evidence. They pick him up, doesn't have a lawyer, doesn't have any representation, family doesn't know where he is, and he's alleged to have given this statement. They don't, even after that, call Mr. Henry, whether Gladstone, the father, or Gladstone, the person now charged, or his mother, whose address, whose number, who everything for whom they have information. They don't contact him. They don't say, please bring your son in, he's a suspect for the murder. They issue a wanted bulletin saying he's wanted for murder. He says, no problem. He does what every law-abiding citizen does. He goes in with his parents and his lawyers. He's arrested. His lawyers indicate to the police, we have several eyewitnesses. You would have thought immediately in the course of an investigation where a man is saying, look, through his lawyer, we have eyewitnesses, that the police would be more than keen to investigate that, because you don't want to charge somebody if there is compelling evidence that he was somewhere else at the time of the crime. That's basic. And also in terms of case strategy, if you go charge a man and then 100 people or 10 people or how many people turn up and say, look, that's not possible, this is where he was, it's a problem. And that's why basic police investigations 101 would say all alibis, every piece of evidence that you have that could either confirm or contradict culpability needs to be investigated. None of this is done. Statement submitted, and the police do not investigate. Here's what they admitted to me yesterday. They said that they received the statements, but they had sent for advice to the DPP before they received the statements. I would have thought in that case, if you send for advice and you get statements that say these people put this man at a different location, you would call the DPP and say, DPP, when we sent you the information, we have just got some new, fresh information. Please allow us to either send it to you or send back the file so we can include it in it so you can review it. Nothing happens. You charge the man. You don't go to see the statements. You don't go to see the witnesses. The next day, the people have a press conference, and then is when you issue a statement saying that they're criminal because they attempted to pervert the course of justice, because they provided a statement from 2 days before that you don't even bother to investigate.
Mr. Hughes, you are an exceptional attorney at law by any measure.
I don't accept that, but you're very kind. But you can go ahead.
I don't want to put you in the mind of the police force, but what are they playing at with this kind of the kind of posturing that they're taking? What are they playing at?
Here's what, unfortunately, and I can never be in the mind of the Ghana Police Force. You require special skills to do that. But here's what unfortunately happens in a lot of situations in Ghana. They having dug themselves and committed themselves to a particular position, don't want to be embarrassed by saying, oh, we might have been wrong, we should have done this. So they are now attached in a position despite all the evidence that may contradict it. And if you'll allow me to refer to a prior situation. In 2013, a man by the name of Mr. Shaka Chase was arrested by the Ghana Police Force. He was taken into custody. He was tortured, and he confessed to having shot and killed a police officer on Avenue of the Republic. A woman was arrested, tortured, and she said Shaka Chase shot and killed a police officer. So imagine what you have here. You have a confession from Shaka Chase that he shot and killed a police officer, and you have a female witness who says that she saw Shaka Chase shoot and kill police officer. We go to the police station on Sunday night. Mark Benchaput contacted me. And I said to the relatives of Shaka Chase, who all confirmed he was somewhere else, bring all the alibi witnesses. Let's bring them right now to Ivleri so they can give statements saying where he was, so that they can take those statements and include them in the evidence that is sent to the Director of Public Prosecutions. The witnesses turn up on the Sunday evening. I take them to the police. The police says, we are not listening to you. We don't want any, we're not taking any statements from any eyewitnesses. We don't want your eyewitnesses. I held a press conference outside of the CID headquarters, both asking the eyewitnesses to speak and to indicate that the police had refused. Shaka Chase is charged the next day with murder, and his freedom is taken away from him because he's charged with murder. By Wednesday or Thursday of the week, Natasha Blackman, who was the female witness, said, not only was I tortured, but I didn't give the police the content of the statement that you say that I gave, in which you say that I implicated Shaka Blair. Evidence emerged. Somebody had collected clothing in which Shaka Blair had defecated himself while in police custody. And at that stage, the Director of Public Prosecutions withdrew the murder charge against Shaka Chase because there was no basis for it. He was tortured, the woman was tortured, there was no evidence to implicate him. Shaka Chase subsequently sued the Ghana Police Force and the officer involved, and he got a judgment. The court found that he had been tortured, that he was subject to cruel and unusual punishment, and awarded the modest sum of, I can't remember, $1.2 million. So the court, the Chief Justice, ruled and found that this man was tortured. So think about this. Shaka Chase would have been charged. He would have had a confession statement saying he killed the police officer. A woman was tortured, and she said that Shaka Chase had been there, and he would probably still have been sitting down in the lockups now, waiting on a trial in 2021, because he had given an alleged oral confession statement. I have a client who is sitting in the lockup since 2008, charged with murder, and the trial hasn't come up. So you understand the power of just the institution of a murder charge. What it does, it shuts you down completely for almost a decade. In some cases, more than a decade. The man who was charged in 2008 has been there for 13 years, accused of shooting a soldier, and he hasn't had a trial. So that's where we are.
Mr. Hughes, as we look to program time, this is a matter of national interest. The gruesome murders of Isaiah and Joel Henry, and the justice that is required. Persons are watching us at home here in Guyana and internationally. What should be their thinking on this case at this hour as we close?
Sure. My responsibility is only to share with people the facts. I have no desire to influence the results or conclusions they come to, and so I only share the facts. What I can say is, personally, this is an awful case, and I just want to use the experience of Patricia Henry. Her son is brutally murdered, his neck severed, hanging only by the flesh at the back of the neck, 16 or 17 chop wounds, and she sees that. He goes missing, and she sees that. No proper investigation. People offer the best forensic help. It's all rejected. Fast forward, she goes on a program. She speaks out. Her son gets arrested. This is her other son, gets arrested and charged with murder. She herself knows, not even what her friends said. She knows that her son was in her presence on the day Harris Singh is murdered. And you can imagine a mother knowing that her son was in her presence at the time when this murder took place, and he gets charged with murder. So imagine the trauma that lady is going through. Her son clearly wrongfully charged. And if that is not enough, because she gives a statement saying, y'all wrong here. My son was here. I could confirm that. I was there. I could tell you. Douglas came and tell us when Harris Singh was murdered, my son was there. Sarabo and this Indian officer came off afterwards, sometime during the course of the morning. He was there. He never left there. And by the time you get over the murdered son and now this other son charged with murder, and he goes into the lockups, she then gets arrested and locked up for giving a statement about where her son was. And the police, before she is arrested, issue a press release saying she's a criminal because she submitted a statement saying, my son was with me at the time y'all say he killed Harrison. That must be the worst possible situation, where you end up locked up for speaking about what you saw in the presence of several witnesses, presence of several relatives who all give statements. And you say to them, oh, the police can say, I'm the mother, so I can lie for my son. Y'all come and confirm or tell them whether what he says is a lie or not. And the people from the country say, well, yeah, we're going to go to Georgetown and we can get a statement because we know this is an injustice. And they come to town and they get locked up because they give a statement saying this is true.
Incredible and bizarre. Incredible and bizarre. Mr. Hughes, I want to thank you for spending this time with us and walking us through these many issues and giving context to this national discussion that is happening as we speak. Thanks very much. Lead attorney on this case.
Please stay safe. Thank you, Sharon.
Great. Mr. Hughes there, representing Hughes, Fields and Stobie Law Firm, and again, lead attorney on this case. Thank you so much. And Guyanese, as Mr. Hughes would have said, these are the facts, rather. These are the facts as we know them at this hour. Thanks for joining us. Bizarre. The Guyana Police Force exposed at every step of the way. I want to quote that final part, that one of those paragraphs from the press statement from Hughes, Fields, and Stobies as we go. I want to quote back those 3 paragraphs from the press statement. The failure of the Guyana Police Force to investigate the contents of the 10 alibi statements provided to them, this is the last 24 hours, before the institution of the charge of murder against Gladstone Henry is the hallmark of an inadequate, unsatisfactory investigation, lacking in diligence or the basic minimum standards of contemporary investigative operations. The subsequent failure to even contact the alibi witness prior to the press conference attended by the alibi witnesses discloses the most unfortunate disposition of the Ghana police force in the conduct of the investigation into the murder of Harsh Singh. The issuance of a press release by the Ghana police force in which they classified the alibi witness as criminals who attempted to pervert the course of justice before they had even spoken with any of them or investigated their alibi statements speaks volumes of the interest of the Ghana police force in conducting a fair investigation into the murder of Harsh Singh. And folks, those are the facts as we know them at this hour. Shame on the Ghana police force. Thanks for joining us. Social distance, wear your mask, sanitize, and practice all of the other COVID protocols that are in place for your health, your safety, and that of your friends and your loved ones. Stay safe, folks. Thanks for joining us.